So last spring, Produce X101 finished airing, and like many, I watched it as I've done every year. However, a lot of times it was hard to watch because the trainees are on average very young, and whoever is managing the show is not caring about that enough. In every episode, there is at least a few moments where the trainees are supposed to show the national producers how sexy and attractive they are. They had a segment where the trainees were showing off their abs to see who had the best ones, and there were way too many lip bites and winks. And worst of all, the trainees were covering very sexy songs, the worst offenders being EXO Love Shot, BTS Blood, Sweat and Tears, and Jason Derulo's Swallow. In No More Dream, a trainee lifted up his shirt according to Jimin's part in the choreo, but then there was this other performance where lifting up the shirt was not a part of the choreo, but the trainee did it anyway, in a very awkward way. And when I was watching the show, I thought that my reactions to these things reflected the mainstream opinion. But when I looked at fan cams on YouTube, tweets on Twitter, etc., I was surprised to see how many people were not only saying that they thought the trainees looked empowered and cool, and even said they were attracted to them despite knowing they were underage. This made me want to make a video about how minors are sexualized in the K-pop industry and why it's a problem. Sexualization of minors in pop music is, of course, not unique to the K-pop industry, but a worldwide phenomenon. Sex sells, and music labels are well aware of that. So aware that they don't care about how being marketed as a sex symbol affects a teen mentally, as long as it brings in money. A good example from the Western pop industry would be Britney Spears, who debuted as a teen with Baby One More Time. This is a very sexy song for a teen to sing. Throughout her entire career, Britney Spears' image has continued to be largely tied to her sexual liberty. Someone who has a similar story is Hyuna. Hyuna debuted at the age of 13 in Wonder Girls with Irony, wearing what I can best describe as a sluttified version of a school uniform. When she was 15, she released her first solo song, Bubble Pop, which was the start of her becoming a sex symbol, just like Britney. Even though Hyuna was forced into the concept as a teen, she grew to liking it as she got older. However, there has been hints that she wasn't always happy to do what she did, like in her song Babe, which has been suspected by many to be about looking older than she is. Hyuna isn't the only one who has been a victim of sexualization. Some other famous examples of sexualization of minors include Somi being the center of What a Man at 16 years old wearing a harness, Chui from Twice doing a solo commercial at the age of 15 where she danced in a sexy way in an elevator and looked at the camera very seductively, Sully from FX appearing in a photo shoot where she did poses with very sexual undertones and short shorts as a 15-year-old. Also wearing a shirt with the Playboy bunny on it. Troyery from Luna doing Love Cherry Motion, a song with heavy sexual undertones, and also joining Odd Eye Circle, Luna's girl crush subunit at the age of 15 and 16. Maknae Chanmi was only 16 when AOA revamped their image to super sexy, performing in leather hot pants for Confused. The truth is that companies are exploiting these idols' dreams. The idols themselves probably want to be sexy because that's what grown-ups do. They think it's cool and do not see the consequences of their actions. However, the companies are fully aware of these consequences. We all know that pure talent is not what gets you votes on survival shows. Popularity is. There are 101 trainees in Produce 101. That is a crazy amount, and it is not possible for every trainee to get an equal amount of screen time. So no matter how much screen time you get, you need to take advantage of every moment and every performance, and do something that will hopefully get people to like you and vote for you. And doing a very sexy audition or looking sexy in a performance is an easy way to get that attention. They are unintentionally inviting the viewers to view them in a sexual way. A lot of these minor idols are probably doing this because they're having fun. They think it looks cool. They are not aware of the meaning of the lyrics they're singing or the sexual undertone of the moves they're doing. I know for sure that when I was a kid, or more appropriately called a tween, a young teen, I sang along to plenty of songs in English that were definitely about sex, but I did not know that, and that's just how it is. You might think, even if there are possible predators watching them, it doesn't matter because the items themselves are just having fun and don't know what they're doing is wrong. But it's not about what they're doing, but why they're doing it. Primarily, the kind of long-term consequences it has on both how they view themselves and how the fans watching them view themselves. According to the objectification theory by Frederic and Roberts, self-objectification is a learned trait and changes the way you behave as well as affects your mental and physical well-being. Exposure to sexualized media may lead to more minors objectifying themselves. To quote them, theorists post that from an early age on, women's bodies are looked at, commented on, and evaluated by others. Girls and women learn from experience and observe sexual objectification that sexual attractiveness is a central aspect of the feminine gender role, and therefore a goal from which they must strive. Of course, we all know that the K-pop industry in general places a high importance on looks, which stems from the high beauty standards in South Korea, and that everyone, no matter their age, suffers in self-confidence when they look at these beautiful idols and compare them to their own appearance. But it's especially dangerous that we are teaching young girls that their ability to attract a man is the most important quality they should have, more important than being intelligent and becoming a beautiful person on the inside. Self-objectification compromises cognitive components, such as valuing appearance over competence. And it is a fact that while people of all ages are affected, younger people are usually more susceptible to sexual media content because their brain is still growing and soaks up information more easily. As a kid, you always think the teens and adults are cool. You want to be like them, act like them. Actually, I found a very interesting thing. The director of Produce 101 admitted that he created the show in mind of being healthy pornography in an interview he did with Cut magazine in 2016. To the question, the male version of Produce 101 will be coming out, but what makes me uninterested said, "Do you have a secret plan to attract male viewers?" He responded, "The reason why we did the female version is, I don't know how to express it. It was from the thought that we needed to create wholesome pornography for males. If you look at the contestants, they look like your younger sister or niece, but aren't they cute? I wanted to make that style of pornography. The male version will likewise be made to be pornography for women. In the past, they called Rain's performance videos pornography for women. The male version of Produce 101 will satisfy that kind of fantasy, but it's also fun that males will also watch." Now, of course, after this interview came out, a lot of people were upset and disgusted at him by the statements, as was I. But some also tried to defend him in a way, saying that's not what he meant, porn can have different definitions, etc. He literally used the word for porn in Korean. It is not possible for it to have been a mistranslation in any way. Of course, I won't defend him in any way, but his statement did spark some interesting thoughts because what he's saying is kind of true. Produce, after all, as I said before, isn't a show solely about talent, because those who end up in the final group are there thanks to people voting for them for whatever reason. If a trainee is popular for his cute personality or good-looking appearance rather than his talent, then obviously viewers are voting for that trainee with the intention of getting to follow someone who fits their ideal romantic fantasy. His grave statement highlights something even more problematic than minors doing sexy concepts. The cute/innocent concepts are more common in K-pop because they allow a company to get away with sexualizing their idols in a less obvious way. It's not really the fact that it's a cute concept that is inherently wrong, but more the fact that the members are infantilized, which means having an adult woman or man behaving and dressing like they're younger than their actual age in order to appeal to a fetish. These innocent concepts might even be worse than the sexy ones because they portray elements tied to childhood as something to be sexualized. These innocent concepts might even be worse than the sexy ones because they portray elements tied to childhood as something to be sexualized. This is the reason why some people get defensive when they are criticized for being an adult attracted to a celebrity teen. They say, they look like an adult, they behave like an adult, what's wrong with me liking them? But they're not dressed in a way that people their age are dressed. The first example of this is the Lolita concept. This concept was popularized by the photographer Rada. Rada is a professional photographer who has worked with many K-pop groups and soloists like FX Soleil, Stellar, and Cosmic Girls. In his photo shoots, the idols are always dressed in a very specific type of styling. It's always gym shorts, tennis skirts, or even underwear paired with oversized sweaters or t-shirt, and they also make poses that capture innocence but still have heavily sexual undertones and indicate submissiveness. When you look at these photos, they aren't the type of photos you usually see of young teens. You wouldn't ask your child or younger sibling to pose in this way for a photo. And when you think of it in that way, it becomes kind of creepy. Another common concept that sexualizes innocence is the schoolgirl concept. This exploits the schoolgirl fetish and always has idols wearing sexualized versions of school uniforms, where the shirts are tightened and the skirts are shorter and the knee socks look sexy. In general, the school uniforms don't look anywhere close to something you would actually see a student wearing in school. Another example of sexualization is aegyo. Aegyo is to mimic the behavior of a child through cute gestures and speaking in a high-pitched, baby-like voice. Koreans actually think this is attractive, and to most foreigners and a lot of Koreans as well, they think it's cringy when an adult does it, but not as much when a child or teen does it. Of course, that's not strange considering they are a child, so it's natural for them to act as one. However, what is strange is that it's a child pretending to be an adult, pretending to be a child. That's when you realize how disturbing it is that aegyo is actually seen as something attractive, something primarily girls but also boys use to charm their crush or their partner. The reason why this sexualization of innocence is so acceptable and popular in South Korea is because the beauty standard is so centered on youth and looking young overall. Idols are praised if they look younger than they actually are. And then we have the famous song Adult Ceremony. It's quite an old song by now, but is still covered by many female idols when they turn 18 because of its very sexy dance moves and leg-slit dress. I do think we should question why it's so common to celebrate an idol turning 18. And the adult ceremony isn't the only way we celebrate idols coming adults, both in terms of companies and fans. Many companies have groups that debut with a cuter concept, but as soon as all members become adults, they switch the concept into a sexier one. Last year, 2 boy groups caught my attention doing that, NCT Dream and Astro. The concept of NCT Dream is that the lineup is ever-changing, as idols can only be in the group until they turn 18. However, SM hasn't introduced any new members, but only removed members so far. Because of that, their approach has become instead to involve the group's concept as they get older. They debuted with Chewing Gum, the most childish song you could possibly make, and they kept putting out songs in the same style until 2018 when they released Go. Now, Go was just a cooler, edgier song, but not really sexy, so I didn't really mind. However, this spring they released Boom, a song with quite explicit lyrics, whose music video featured the members looking into the camera very sensually and wearing suits. Astro also debuted with a playful, happy concept, which I loved, but ever since 2 or 3 comebacks ago, they started changing up their sound to more EDM, which isn't my cup of tea musically, but it was still not sexual. However, last year they went full-on sexy with their latest comeback Blue Flame. Not so coincidentally, that was soon after the youngest member, Sana, turned 18. I really don't mind groups evolving their concept and music style over time, honestly. That's inevitable, both because they get older and behaving childish, as to say, gets a little weird at one point, but also because it's boring to do the same thing every comeback. However, it does make me extremely uncomfortable when it's done in this way. It is clear to me that the companies these groups are under were just waiting for the day all members turn 18 so they could give them a sexy comeback, because sex always sells and brings in new fans. Now, there are people who say that pedophiles are only attracted to literal children, like young children, and you're not a pedophile if you're attracted to a teenager. And I don't agree with that. These people often go by the logic of teenagers can be sexualized because they've hit puberty. But the fact is that people hit puberty at all kinds of ages. Some when they're 8, some when they're 11, some when they're 15. And even disregarding that, your body really does keep developing and changing throughout the entire span of your teenage years. and even into your 20s. There is a literal scientific reason as to why the legal age and age of consent in most countries is the same. A better term for this phenomenon would, I guess, be hebephilia, which is an adult being attracted to a teenager age 11 to 14, or ephebophilia, an adult being attracted to teens age 15 to 19. But it's not just about the age itself, it's about being attracted to people who look like teenagers, no matter their actual age. The problem is that these people are either made to look younger than they are, or styled in a way to accentuate their youthful teen features, or they're styled in a way that adults dress, in which you can sometimes even not tell that they're a teenager. Anyhow, if you're an adult and you're attracted to someone who is not an adult, there is something wrong with you and you should question yourself. Also, I need to point out that sexualizing children is not just common in the K-pop industry or the entertainment industry, but in every industry and every part of our lives. Children as young as 8 worry about being popular with the opposite sex and have experiences being sexually harassed by the opposite sex, even though they don't know it's sexual harassment. I actually have a first-hand experience of this. When I went to middle school, they had to reinforce a ban for the boys to touch the girls because they were harassing them so much and making the girls uncomfortable. It was, now that I think back of it, it was so weird. But yeah, that happened. It's natural to get interested in sexual and romantic things as you grow up because that's how our biology works. However, as we live in a society where unfortunately there are people who are messed up in the head, we need to prevent these predators from preying on minors who are in the public eye. Since it's natural, we should not deny girls or boys the opportunity to explore their sexuality or prevent them from having relationships. However, there's a difference between that and forcing a teenager to do something just because it makes them earn money. At the same time, we need to educate them of the consequences of their actions. We need to make them question why they are trying to attract men at such a young age. Idols who objectify themselves are not just any teenager doing this to attract someone they have a crush on their age. They are doing these things to attract complete strangers of all ages. This is the most important reason as to why it's not okay to sexualize a teen or child idol or celebrity in general, even if you're a teen yourself. So as a conclusion, I'd like to think about what steps should the K-pop industry take in order to stop and, more importantly, prevent minors from being sexualized. For me, ideally, idols should only be allowed to debut if they're on the age of 18. They will have finished high school, be somewhat mature, and their body will be developed. However, considering how young idols start training and that the fact that K-pop idols debut at an extremely young age is something that's been common ever since the beginning of K-pop, and I don't think that's going to ever change, honestly. But the next best thing is that they should at least wait until they're 16 or something. Secondly, companies just need to take the responsibility to stop sexualizing their minor trainees and stop forcing them to act or look sexual. They need to stop putting them in uncomfortable, sexy clothes. They need to not do a sexy concept if one of the members in a group is a minor. By continuing to do these things, they are only normalizing the sexualization of minors and encouraging people to see children and teen idols as sexual objects. By normalizing this, more and more teens will start to think that they should mimic the behavior of these idols, and be sexy themselves. And that often leads to people blaming the idols themselves for being bad role models or acting older than their age, which is so wrong. It is always the companies we should blame for this, for exploiting and sexualizing their idols. It's just so wrong to blame the idols for just following the orders, you know? And lastly, I also think that some laws should be established by the government that protects minors from these kinds of things. The government actually did establish some laws already about minors in the industry in 2014. First law was that idols under 15 are not allowed to work more than 35 hours a week, while those 15 to 18 are not allowed to work more than 40 hours. Minors can't work between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. unless their guardians give consent, and breaking these laws will yield a fine. However, these aren't really effective because it's hard to define what counts as work for an idol. For example, when idols perform in the show Music Bank, they have to get up at 6 in the morning in order to do makeup so they can look good in the pictures that they get taken by various magazines as well as fan side outside the venue in the morning, and then they rehearse, but they have to wait for several hours until they actually get ready and perform in the evening. Is the period of time when they wait considered work? Is the time they willingly choose to practice their choreography and late in the evening considered work? The only exceptions in this law is if getting to a venue in a vehicle takes a very long time. Minors are allowed to refuse wearing clothes if they make them uncomfortable, like if they're too revealing or skimpy. But again, where does the line go? Clearly, shorts that show half the butt are okay as long as the idols wear safety shorts, so that one doesn't mean to be very effective either. As you can see, the problems with these laws is that they are not specific enough, and that the line of what breaks the laws and what doesn't seems very unclear. And yeah, that's all I have to say. I hope that if you didn't already see how big of an issue sexualization of minors in the K-pop industry is, that you see it now.